What is up, internet world, and welcome back to Accelerate. I'm Mike, he's Ian, and today we're bringing the 2023 Porsche Carrera T. Oh man, in the 2023 Porsche 911 Carrera T for touring, or the only way you can get a manual transmission for the cheapest price. This has a twin turbocharged 3-liter flat six that makes 379 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque. Now, okay, I got the GoPro. Let's start this bad boy up. Okay, GoPro, you're on. Camera, you're good. Let's put this thing with all my different drive modes: normal, sport, sport plus. Let's get you in sport plus. First gear, let's see where we can get this bad boy in. Let's go and go. Ah, bit boggy. .53. Okay, that was completely my fault. We can definitely get this thing in 4.1, like 100% all day long, every day. There we go. 4.04. That is quick, considering it has the base motor out of a Carrera, not the Carrera S motor that makes like 441 horsepower. It does have a shorter shifter by 10 millimeters. In the T, just a track star. So good, playful and fun. You can just whip this thing around the corner and not even care, and it just does its thing. And you can be aggressive with it and it just sticks. Now, the reason this Bumblebee is important is because when it was launched back in 1969, it won the Monte Carlo Rally in its debut year. Basically, two things Porsche wanted to do: make it lighter and make it fun. And now, almost 55 years later, it's in front of us. But even though it's supposed to be simple, it is still a Porsche after all. Here are choices of colors: black, white, guards red, racing yellow, jet black, gentian blue, ice gray, GT silver. You can obviously get chalk, which is my favorite color of all time, ruby star neo, carmine red, shark blue, and as we saw in the GTS, python green. But that's not it when it comes to paint. In this model, body style, and year, you can now get paint to sample, which means you can pick whatever paint color you want, and Porsche will put it on your Carrera T, which is all new, and that is cool because you can get Gulf blue. Now, yellow is awesome. I've driven this thing for the last couple of days, and wherever I go, people look at it and they're like, beautiful car, beautiful car. But it looks exactly the same as every other 911 that people are used to, which is why Porsches don't do that well on our channel. So if you are this far in the video, please, please, please comment below, give us love, because we need all the help we can get, because we're talking about a Porsche 911 here. They look the same, and it's kind of annoying, but one day they will change for the nicer. Obviously, if you buy GT3 RS, that thing is sick, so I totally get it. But this thing sits 10 millimeters lower than the base one. It reduces insulation. It has thinner glass to give you all the lightweight features. You get exclusive 20-inch gray wheels on the front and 21s in the back. Yep, it's a staggered setup. You also get adaptive suspension by Porsche. You also get this agate gray mirror cap covers, which is cool. You can't get it in a convertible, and you only can get it in rear-wheel drive. It's not available in an all-wheel drive system, it's just rear-wheel drive. You get the wide hips in a Porsche, and you get these cool door handles. So here's something really important for you to know about the Carrera T. First things first, it has a mechanical rear limited slip with torque vectoring, of course, because all the power that this makes, 379 horsepower, goes right here to the back wheels. And when you have a limited slip, that really helps when you're going around the corner, because this is a street version of a 911. But that is not the most important piece to know. The most important piece is that if you want to buy a manual transmission in a 911, the only way to get it for cheap
is this. Yep, you can no longer get a manual transmission in a base Carrera. The T is the one you have to buy. And last but not least, engine, you have dynamic engine mounts, which means it stabilizes the motor to give you as much power to the ground as possible. Now, as I walk past this optional rear wheel steering, I will say the back of this 911 is pretty much exactly the same as all 911s, with the exception that it says Carrera T there, not GTS or S or 4 anything. Also, you have sport exhaust on the bottom with black tips, but the most important part about this specific Carrera T is the license plate. It says 992. And that's what it is. Now, before we jump inside, I want to talk about these rear seats. It's hard to talk about these things when you're inside the car, but on the T, you can choose to have these seats extra. There's no cost to it, but they come standard with no seats in the back or rear seat delete, and you get to add these seats for free. This one also has cool yellow seat belts inside, but that absolutely means nothing if you cannot carry anything, and in this Porsche, you can. The back parcel shelf, you can have 2 bags. Now, it'll obviously impede rear visibility, but you have the space for it, and obviously you have the frunk. As I open the door, so this door doesn't have a full pull door. As soon as I touch it a little bit, it automatically unlocks. So it's got some modern technology to it. It says 911 Carrera T right on the sill. So let's jump inside it and make me feel all Porsche-ish. Porsche does a really good job in making the driver or the owner feel valued. Feels substantial, feels like you spent the money in the right places. All the materials in here just look really, really good, including the fitment of this 18-way adjustable seat. It is excellent for any height, weight, or size. So on the door panel, I do have 3 memory seat, which is odd because someone that buys a Carrera T is buying it for themselves. They're not buying to share it with anybody in the family. So having 3 memory seat is probably just more of a marketing play. Nonetheless, when I look at this dash, in the center I have the analog gauge, which is very Porsche. On the right, I do have a digital screen. On the left, I also have a digital screen that I can flip around and change. This one has a Sport Chrono standard because that's what Carrera T's give you, which means I get that bad boy up top. I also get different drive modes down here. Now, this does not have a Sport Response button. This is the only way you get it when you get the Carrera T. Now, if you're not used to buying a Porsche, you probably want to know how to start the car. Well, all Porsches start from the left side, not the right. There's no place for you to put the key in and turn. This is very basic information, but if this is the first Porsche video you've ever watched in your life, Porsches start with the left hand and you turn this little fakey knob because we're in 2023 and the key is in my hand and I can still start it. Now, the T has a few lightweight saving features that come standard in the car. You can obviously get rid of the rear seat, you get lightened glass, and you get less insulation. Now, obviously when you're driving it, you can hear a little bit more, but that's kind of the thrill of buying a 911. But it's weird because when I close and open this door, look how solid this feels. Again, it's electric, but listen to this. It's very strong and firm and bossy. I just feel like it's solid and there's nothing lightweight about that. So if they've lightened up the glass, it doesn't feel like that whatsoever. Now let's get to this screen. This screen is kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. It always asks you, do you want to be in private mode? What do you want to be? Do you want to save your information? Do you want to deactivate this? There's just a lot of buttons I have to press. But once I get to where I want to be, it's fairly easy to use as long as you deal with telephone, navigation, and media. Anyways, down from there, you have 5 buttons. This one here is a cool feature. When you hit the button, you can actually raise the front or drop the front when you go on steep inclines or you hit speed bumps that are high and you're just afraid you might hit the front. Then you have your exhaust button that automatically activates when you go into Sport Plus. Then, of course, your hazards, your stability program, and then your suspension because this does have adaptive or active suspension. Now, another thing about Porsches is when you're hot in the cabin, you turn the fan on to get to its highest setting. Listen to how loud it is. I've tried to put all the vents on in this car. It's just so loud you can barely have a conversation with the person next to you. But what I do respect is they still have hard buttons. You have your volume on your left, you have your tuning knob on your right, and then of course you have some buttons you have to touch on the top here. But the most important piece is your fan speed and your temperature on your dual climate control for the left and the right. And of course there's a readout right above it, this LCD display. From there you have what everybody wants, which is the manual transmission. This is a 7-speed, which is amazing. So bam, thank you Porsche for giving me a 7-speed. But look and hear this. Very, very hard to push in, very strong, great gearbox. Then you have the 911 underneath that, a little bit of a coin holder here. This one does have the fancy seats, so I do have air conditioned and heated seats, 3 increments each. And then of course, the world's worst position of a cup holder, especially on a manual car. If you put a bottle here, well, how are you supposed to shift and change gears? It's always in your way. So I would suggest just pushing this button, taking this and getting rid of it and leaving this little spot right there. Such a joy to drive, like such a joy to drive. I always ask myself, why don't I have this as a daily driver? Like, why don't I just buy a car like this and get rid of the Tesla? And that is what I'm doing in my mind after this rally. So I'm doing a rally next week. It's called the Ace Spade Rally, and it's 6 days of me zipping around with supercars, but there's also M2s there. And it's gonna be me and my son, and what we're doing is we're gonna be zipping for 6 days, and I'm gonna be the EV test dummy. Because normally rallies don't like to bring EVs. They actually hate on them. Tesla just obviously doesn't have the name. So I'm gonna be that guy. But then in the meantime, that car sits all the time. I barely drive it because it's only good for one thing, and that's acceleration. And this thing is just fun to drive, man. When I go places and I have a choice to pick the Tesla or this, I pick this every time. And this is not a cheap car. This is still $150,000 Canadian, which is a lot of money for a base Carrera with a manual transmission option, theoretically. But it's fun, it's easy, it's playful, it's convenient. It's a great daily driver. It's street ready. I mean, that's what they designed it for. It's a street version of a Carrera with all the little upticks of weight savings. Tester that I have does not have rear wheel steering, and I don't really notice a difference unless you're on the highway driving fast. It kind of holds the car together. It creates this, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it makes the car more elongated when you're driving it by having access to those back wheels in order to turn a little bit. It makes the car feel longer, but this one doesn't have it and it feels perfectly fine. It's not something I'd say it needs it. I don't really feel it. Parking it's small enough. People say you need to have it just to sort of maneuver it easily, but I think it's not exactly necessary. The cool part about the T as well is that in any drive mode, you can select it to downshift for you, or rev match for you, I mean. Just a great motor. Just the exhilaration that this car brings. Now keep in mind, like, the 911 list is long. You have the Carrera T, the Carrera S, the Carrera 4, the Carrera 4S, the Targa 4, the Targa 4S, the GTS, the Ford GTS. Oh my God, it doesn't stop. The American edition, the Dakar, the Sport Classic, the Turbo S, I think. Yeah, the GT3, the GT3 RS. And then at the top of the food chain, the highest, most expensive Porsche you can buy is the GT3 RS that somebody else owns that they're trying to sell online. That is the most expensive one because people are impatient and cannot wait to get one. And then this other cool feature that you can raise the front end up is pretty awesome. I love that. It's just like, bree. It's awesome, man. I could just do this all day. All day. The only real complaint I have about this car is not even a complaint. It's that the back end doesn't ever get loose. Considering that all the power goes to this back end, I know it sounds like crazy to say that, but it just grips beyond grip itself. It just does a very good job in planting it. And then you're like thinking, like, sometimes I just do want the back end to come out a little bit, but this doesn't make enough power to actually make the back end do that. Plus you add the limited slip and you add all the other systems that the Porsche has. It doesn't give you that sliding motion, but it gives you complete grip and strength. So I guess, in essence, you can take this thing around a corner way faster than you'd expect to be able to do so. So there's a thumbs up.
But if I have to actually complain about something, it's the placement of this cup holder. That's the only thing I can complain about this car. Everything else about this car is perfect. The seating position, the way it handles. Okay, maybe the price, but I think price is just one of those things that in today's world you can complain about price in pretty much every car they make out there. Besides maybe the, what did we review the other day? Oh, a Buick. Yeah, a Buick. That Buick and Vista. Well, it's kind of weird to say that, but it's true. The Buick and Vista was really good for the price. I thought for the money it was a great car. And maybe like a 3-year-old Telluride. Looks sick. Priced well. Other than that, can't complain about price. This car, though, is awesome for what it gives you. It just checks all the boxes, man. So hopefully that was a good enough review for you guys on this Porsche Carrera T. Catch you in the next one.